Hello everyone and welcome back to Let's Play Ninja Gaiden 3, the Ancient Ship of Doom. In the last part we started off the game and left off after stage 3, and now we're in stage 4, and the first section of this stage can actually be quite a bit hellish, because it's constant bottomless pit beneath us. Those drills look like they should be spikes, but no, they're just bottomless pit background objects. This jump here can be a bit tough to make because the moment that the platform starts moving backwards again, it can interfere with your control, and that could gimp your jump pretty easily if you're not careful. Now, last part, I started going over the differences between this and Ninja Gaiden 2, but I actually found, like, a full list of them, thanks to Ninja Gaiden Wiki. I brought up things like the difficulty, the scarf, the removal of the Shadow Clone Jutsu ability, basically. But things I forgot to mention are, you can now actually just outright climb to the top of structures when you're near the top by, I think it's pressing the direction of the top of the structure and the A button. I instinctively still do the Ninja Gaiden 2 jump away and then reverse my direction mid-air thing, but that's only because I'm really used to that. And as you've seen, and here's a good example of it, we can now actually cling onto horizontal surfaces as well, basically like X could in Mega Man X5 and 6. It actually ends up being one of the most useful things about the game because you can easily avoid enemies that way. Hold on to this flame wheel, by the way, because using it ignores the spikes. And the bad thing about those spikes is that they do 3 damage here, I think, but in the American version, that means they did 6. 3 hits, basically, and you're dead. You want to be careful with that. And the last 2 differences from 3 to 2 actually involve Ryu's control. I always felt like he controlled the same, but I think that's just because I've never actually marathoned the series from one game to the other, aside from the one time I've played through a trilogy. With the only exception to that being, I always felt jumping backwards in this game, Ryu was a bit slower than the previous games. And it turns out that I'm pretty accurate on that, because in this game, Ryu can actually jump farther, even though I think his jump height is the exact same. However, to compensate for that, his mid-air control isn't nearly as fluid as it was in 2 or 1. And the last difference is actually in regards to his falling speed. He actually falls slower and he gets less knockback. And now it's time for the boss of this stage. This is the Sand Eater. To start off, it shuffles towards you where you can attack it, but then it'll shift itself into the ground when it'll shoot a couple of those upwards fire subweapons at us. It'll then repeat its pattern. However, I should note when it jumps back out to the ground, it jumps up wherever you are. So you want to generally aim for one of the extremes of the room after the 4th volley and then get out of the way. The flame wheel is once again very useful for this because it makes dodging that any of the attacks really basically a non-issue. Ryu, I knew you'd come. I remember you. I'm Clancy. I've been working on the biohazard plan with Foster. I can't work with him anymore. He has secretly created a monster called a Bionoid. What's a Bionoid? There's an open seam between dimensions that was created when the demon died. An unlimited supply of life energy is flowing from the seam inside the ruins of the fortress. Foster has rebuilt the fortress and was doing transformation experiments with life energy. Bionoids are superhumans that have been transformed with life energy. Was it a Bionoid that killed Irene? Yes. And Foster's in control of the Bionoids. I don't have the power to stop him. Ryu, you're my last hope. Stop Foster! So this is Foster's Castle Rock Fortress. Don't you love how actually every game on the NES in this series had that? I do love that camera angle shift, no, not gonna lie. Stage 5 is dangerous, because there are a lot of enemies on screen at a time here. However, that can also play into your favor, because it can cause enemies to not spawn correctly, just due to the amount of sprites on screen. For instance, those giant wasp enemies on the previous screen, I've had it where that they never spawn. So if you play it right, you can actually take advantage of just the amount of enemies this stage throws at you. This screen can be potentially dangerous just due to the fact that they like to put enemies right on top of you like that. And hey, that enemy from Ninja Gaiden 1, I think. Overall, though, when you get past the enemy total, there isn't too much going on in this portion of the stage. There's no real gimmicks or anything. It's just straight-up enemy rush, which, given the Castle Rock Fortress, it makes sense. Down Spark is going to be very useful here just because they require you to make a lot of jumps with enemies on the platforms already. That's one thing I like that this series does that some other series don't really take advantage of too well, is that they actually give you good situations to use your sub-weapons in. Like Castlevania, you mostly just use those for boss fights more often than not, or bats, should the case be, with usually the axe in my case with that. Once we get inside, there is still no straight-up gimmick. It's once again just a mook rush, but now we actually have to deal with more platforming and wall jumping. The only real new enemy of note here is this robot. And the annoying thing about the robot is that the laser it fires out is indestructible. You can actually destroy a good amount of projectiles in this game with your sword, especially with the dragon extension, I think is what the sword extension is called. But the laser is forever invincible. In fact, you can crouch beneath it, and if you slash while it's beneath you, above you, you can still hear the, basically the shield sound effects. Sprite limit can be really taken advantage of there if you don't kill those enemies in the right order, because you can actually make that cannon on the ground just not spawn, which makes getting through that section a bit more easier on your soul. Also, I love this song. Ninja Gaiden 3's soundtrack is still fantastic stuff. I don't think it's as good as Ninja Gaiden 1 or 2's, but it's still really good. Keep moving here because these blocks slowly disintegrate. I don't think they can disintegrate in a row no matter what. I think only 2 to 3 can be disintegrating at a time. And if you just keep jumping, especially to get the items in that room, you don't have much to worry about. Especially because they put the flame wheel in that stage, and the flame wheel in this game is just really good. Helps that there's just so many red ninpos in this stage, too. Also, I have to actually mention this. For all the shit I gave Ninja Gaiden Trilogy, it actually did one thing right with Ninja Gaiden 3. I think it actually reverted back to the Japanese difficulty for that one. Probably because they realized if they tried to alter the difficulty for that one, they'd probably have to do it for all of them, and that just wouldn't be right. That's one thing Trilogy did right. One thing. There's also a couple of other things the American version did. Come on out, Foster. You're finished. Well, look who's here. It's Ryu. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to get rid of you. Imagine the bionoid I could make by blasting your tough Dragon Clan body with life energy. Instead, I'll extract the secret of Dragon Clan from your corpse, then I'll make a superior bionoid. Let's get started. That's far enough, Foster. Who are you? Irene? You're alive. Did you think that I would die that easily? I had been working with the army when I discovered all about his plan. It's no use trying to escape. You fools! You came all this way to get killed! I'll give you and the real Ryu a bloodbath together. Ah! Impossible! Stand back, Irene. Leave this to me. Either way, I should mention right now, be careful if you're prone to epilepsy or flashing light problems, because almost every cutscene throughout the rest of the game has flashing backgrounds like that. Either way, the clone actually is the most complex boss in the game. He jumps a couple times on either extreme of the room and fires out some of the windmill shurikens, but then he'll jump across the room twice, doing down sparks in the process. Then the pattern just kind of loops from there. That's far enough, Foster. What's that? Clancy! Good work, Ryu. And you too, Irene. What? Clancy, what are you doing? Call it what you like. I'm not turning these ruins over to anyone. You used us to get these ruins back! Right. I really should thank you. The subspace connection to the life energy is starting to open, and I have to go now. The life energy and the secrets of the ruins will be mine. So long! Clancy, wait! Ah! Ugh. Irene, get out of here. Now! I'll go after Clancy. I can't let him get control of that energy. Ryu, I'm going with you. No. Foster was torn to pieces by the power in that subspace. You need a special kind of power to make it in there. You have to get out of here quickly. Now go! Ryu. I'll come back alive. I promise. Did somebody say ice level? Because we have an ice level here. Yeah, the crystal surfaces are slippery. You need to be really careful here. It's actually one of the hardest stages in the game because that, of course, it should be that the penultimate stage is one of the hardest, but you get what I mean. Now, it's worth mentioning something before I go back into the last things that the NES version did. I haven't brought it up at this point, but you might be wondering, how is Ryu still being this powerful with just a standard sword when the Dragon Sword was used to revive Irene at the end of 2? I didn't want to mention it because that would just spoil Irene coming back because she was never dead. But Ninja Gaiden 3 is actually a prequel to 2. This is before the whole shebang with Ashtar, the Duke Nukem lookalike, so on and so forth, which makes the game feel even less important narratively, honestly, than it already did. Either way, going over the last changes to the NES version, I think the Quicksand actually hurt you earlier in the NES version back in Stage 2. I think they just outright added more enemies. I'm not sure if the difficulty hack keeps that in mind. And in the American version, when you use a continue, you're left back at the beginning of the stage. But in the Japanese version, say if I died and needed to continue here in 6-2, I would start here at 6-2. In 6-2A, mind you, but I would still be in 6-2. So, that's really kind of them, actually. I don't even think Ninja Gaiden 1 or 2 did that. It's strange, because there's a lot I like about Ninja Gaiden 3's mechanics, but then everything else just gets in the way. I'll talk more about that next part, but, oh, I have a lot to say about this game. Now, once we're here in this section of the stage, when the aesthetics change, the gimmick does as well. No longer is the stage slippery, now it's basically all quicksand. Whenever you're on the floor, you're slowly sinking. And it's only when you sink through the bottom of the screen that you die. If you sink, say, in one of the vertical sections when there's another platform beneath you, you'll just fall to that platform. But if I were to sink right now, or on the very bottom of one of the vertical screens, that is death. You're gonna want the upfire ability here because it's just more useful for getting rid of enemies in the long run, plus the boss is... it's pretty effective against the boss fight. Speaking of which... well, the real Ryu. You finally made it. You're supposed to be dead. Ha! I used all of my strength. But once here, I was brought back to life by the energy. Look at this fantastic body. I've transmuted into a super being. I'll prove it by killing you. Go ahead and try. I won't be beaten by the likes of you. Now, growing up when I first played the game, I thought this was actually supposed to be Foster, but no, this is the doppelganger again, the Bionoid that was made to kill Irene. And this is easily the most pattern-based boss in the game. It shoots a fireball, charges a wall, hits the wall, and rocks fall down. Everyone dies. Rinse, wash, repeat. The reason you want the fire ring ability is so you can destroy any rocks that would be falling right on top of you while they're falling. Overall, it's a very easy boss fight, but you need to be careful because you can sink through the floor and die even when it's dying. Ugh. So, Ryu Hayabusa, you made it here after all. Clancy! I have to compliment you for making it through the subspace. You're just a little too late. I've already made the energy mine. I'll show the world the power of these ruins. Do you have any idea what these ruins really are? We're still inside the ruins. We're inside a dimensional warship. What? These superdimensional ruins are the foundation upon which a new world will be created. It's the new source of all life. The time has come. See for yourself. Well, dang. But with that, I'm going to need to end this off here. Thank you guys for watching, and in part 3, we're heading into endgame, people. See you guys then.